Now, the Cultural and Creative Industries Federation of South Africa recently took its dispute over the Copyright Amendment Bill to the Gauteng legislature. The draft law aims to align copyrights with the digital landscape and developments, but artists are saying the bill in its current form will open them up to exploitation. South African Guild of Actors National Chairperson Jack Devnarain joins us now in studio. Jack, thank you so much for making time for us.
Thank you.
So we're back here again where artists are raising almost the same issues. What are you most concerned about when it comes to this Copyright Amendment Bill? How does it disadvantage you as actors?
Well, the current Copyright Act certainly does disadvantage actors because we are looking for the right to earn fair royalties, which, if the bills are passed, will represent a revolutionary change in the rights of South African actors. And it will mean that we can actually have the right to earn royalties for the first time in history. It means that we'll be able to align ourselves with what the rest of the world is doing. And what we are concerned about right now is the level of misinformation that's going on in the debate around the bills. That's of concern to us because obviously not only government but our lawmakers have a duty to inform people about what is in the bills. And if you're going to engage in debate about the bills, then at least make sure you're informed about them.
What kind of misinformation are they putting out there?
Well, as we saw at the rally that took place at the end of August, we saw that it was a protest. We saw that the protest included hashtags like, shut down the industry and national shutdown. These are very big statements, and we are worried about why people would want to shut down an industry when already we are in such a precarious position being an unregulated creative sector. We have, ideas, and this has already been out in the media. There's some media outlets that are even going so far as to say that the bills themselves have caused people to lose work and income, which to us is very confusing because if this is a bill, it means that the bill is not yet an act of law.
Yeah.
So if there are actual news outlets going out there in the public domain and creating this kind of havoc and confusion, it tells me that we actually have a duty to each other, whichever side of the bills you're on, to speak honestly and openly.
Yeah. What kind of contribution are you making? Because when the bill is out there, there's an opportunity for all the stakeholders to comment on it. What kind of changes would you like to see from what the bill currently stands as?
Well, the bill sits very comfortably with the recommendations that were made by the Copyright Review Commission, led by Judge Farnham. And there's some of the ideas that have already been found in the bills include what is very important for actors, which would be the Beijing Treaty rights. And the Beijing Treaty was drafted by the World Intellectual Property Organization and says that actors essentially have two kinds of rights. You have an economic right, and that's your right to earn royalties. And you also have a moral right. That makes sure that the image that I see of myself on TV is not going to be manipulated in some kind of way that shows me in a way that I'm not comfortable with. So all those things are now in the bills, and we are happy that they're there. Most importantly, we also have the right for a collecting society to collect royalties on behalf of actors and to pay them. Now, that right musicians have already had for nearly 60 years in this country, which is why we're quite confused when organizations say that, that their music royalties are being stolen. No, their music royalties are not being stolen. Their problem lies with the people or the organizations that are collecting those royalties on their behalf.
So do you think that the industry will accept of the recommendations that are in the bill, or are you expecting some resistance?
Still resistance, lots of resistance, of course, because a lot of the misinformation that we find that's being discussed and put out onto the media is actually being propagated by international media outlets. You have those major studios based in the US. You have streaming platforms that have an interest in protecting their profit imperative. And they will do whatever it takes to protect their profits, even if it means inserting themselves into the discussion in South African law, which is what the effort to revise the Copyright Act is all about. It's also the Performance Protection Act, which predates copyright. The Performance Protection Act comes from 1967, before TV even arrived in the country. So when you have international corporate interests that are inserting themselves into the debate in South Africa in order to protect their own profits, we should be worried.
Is the Department of Arts and Culture worried similarly as well?
Well, we've heard that the Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture, Minister Zizi Kodwa, has gone on record to say that, he's hoping that the bills are going to be passed soon. But quite what the Minister has to say for us isn't really relevant, because it was the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition that drafted the bills. They were the ones who introduced the bills into Parliament. So canvassing the support of the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture to us can be misleading. Why do we want them to weigh into this when we want to be seen as an industry? We want to be seen as a regulated industry. So the DTI for us is far more important. And of course, we want all government departments to support the bills. And it was important to us to hear that the Minister was supporting the bills. What we need to see, though, is clarity in his message. Because when the Minister is supporting an organization that is speaking against the bills, then we need to understand, but what does the department mean to say now?
Yeah, because if you say you're hoping that the bills will go through and be passed, but you, again, supporting an organization that speaks against it, that contradicts the messaging. But is the Department of Trade and Industry, does it have appetite? Is it engaging with you as the stakeholders and hearing what the concerns are and you hearing where their processes are at?
Yes, very much. And they were instrumental in getting a lot of the industry to understand the technicalities of what's in the bills. Part of what the DTI has been doing for so long is to engage with both houses of Parliament, the National Assembly, as well as the National Council of Provinces. And most recently, the NCOP has had their stakeholder engagement process, which took place in provinces. And our concern was that while the DTIC was speaking about the bills, inviting people's comments, educating people about the bills, you had this organization funded by the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture that specifically went to disrupt that stakeholder engagement process. Why did they interrupt, disrupt, and eventually abandon the entire stakeholder engagement exercise? That is anti-democratic. That goes against the principles of a participative democracy.
And by organization, are you referring to the CIFSA or SAMRO?
Well, it's CIFSA, the Cultural and Creative Industries Federation of South Africa, which is solely funded by the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture. And there are serious questions as to their actual mandate and what is it that they actually do. And why go about a protest action that is designed to disrupt the industry that they claim to represent? Why would they shut down the industry when they
What are their interests in this? Because, I mean, if that's the approach that they're taking, clearly either they've got something to lose, or what is their interest in them going out and also advocating for what seems to not also be true in their messaging?
You are going to facilitate the debate with me and a representative of that organization, because I would love to know the answer to that as well. The Cultural and Creative Industries Federation, by its very definition, the federation suggests that it has a number of affiliates. When they were established in 2014, CIFSA made a point of saying that we represent all creatives, all organizations and all individuals. So that would include me as an actor. Why then would CIFSA come out in support or decide to run a campaign against the bills when I, as an actor, am saying, but I need the bills. I need to earn royalties. I need a residual income for the work that I've done on TV for the last 18 years. Without that, actors are going to lose, as we've seen before, the late Charlene Surtee Richards. She died when she had a 30-year legacy behind her and she couldn't earn a cent. You've got Shaka Zulu, the new series coming out on TV. SABC Plus is the new streaming channel, and yet SABC ran for years the original Shaka Zulu series from 1985. The man himself, the man in the title role, the late Henry Kele, didn't earn a cent of the 5 billion rand that was made globally from the sales of Shaka Zulu. That can't be right.
Are there concerns around how CIFSA is being run? Because there have been concerns raised also around corruption and the SIU getting involved.
That's right. The SIU is apparently investigating the expenditure and the protocols that go into CIFSA's funding and how it spends its money. There are a number of things that were raised by the Public Protector. And in fact, the Public Protector's office did make mention in a recent report about practices that were funding individuals and funding organizations that did not follow the protocols as laid out by the by Treasury regulations. And you also have legislation that regulates how an entity that is funded by government is allowed to spend its money. So if those regulations are being subverted, then you and I, as taxpayers, have a right to ask questions about where's this money going and why are you using this money to disrupt a democratic process.
Are the actors themselves united in this, Jack? Because if you've got an organization that's meant to represent you going this way and the actors are going this other way, that's not a way to win a battle.
Well, we have freedom of association in this country, and there are nearly 400 or so professional actors that belong to the South African Guild of Actors. And we all are very clear on the need to earn a residual income from the body of our work. There are actors that might have their own views, but again, it comes down to this is an exercise in democracy. When Parliament is having a session and they say, we invite you to make a submission, then surely, if you care enough, you should actually stand up and say something. Even better, write it down so it's on record. And up to now, there is no record of CIFSA making any submission to Parliament, whether in support of or against the bills, which makes me even more confused. You have nothing to say in Parliament when they invited you. Why would you now go and disrupt a democratic process?
Yeah. Well, Jack, that's all. We'll have to leave it. Thank you so much for making time for us.
Thank you.
He's the South African Guild of Actors National Chairperson.